So now, as we begin to wind the series down, we're going to take a trip through probably the single most significant tourist site in Seoul. This is, I guess, the moment you've all been waiting for. This is the Spring Palace. It's one of either four or five palaces that are located right in the heart of Seoul. And I'm going to tell you, as we walk through this over the 2.5 minutes of footage here, I hope you're going to realize why it is I wasn't super psyched to put this up. This was a pretty bad day to visit. It was extraordinarily hot. The weather was miserable. It was in excess of 90 degrees, very high humidity. I was dying this day. On top of which it had been raining. It was threatening to rain again. You can't really see it here, but there were, storm clouds off in the distance. Didn't know which direction they were moving. Could have started raining any time. Nevertheless, nevertheless, this place is still incredibly crowded. This is actually a pretty light crowd, again, probably because of how bad the weather is and just the timing of the day. There were still thousands of people here. And this ends up being the problem I have. It's one of the reasons I don't visit a lot of the major, really famous tourist sites, especially the internationally famous tourist sites, is there are too damn many people. Now, this doesn't look so bad right now because, again, Spring Palace is enormous. There is a lot to see in here. There's a lot of space. But just walking around, especially if we were to go, and I actually, for mercy's sake, we don't go up to this building, which is kind of the center of the thing. I'm mostly staying to the edges because those are the places where I can walk around freely and there aren't a ton of people. But even then, it was really, really hard for me to just not capture the crowds in this. And there were just more people coming all the time. And I just cannot imagine if it was like a more fair day, if it was the heart of tourism season, what this place would be like. You might not be able to draw a breath. And that right there is the reason that when I choose, and I don't actually travel for pleasure a lot, despite the fact that I live overseas, but when I do, I tend to not go to the really famous places. I go to the places locals go a lot of the time, and the big advantage there is assuming I go in the right time. I don't go during like the local tourist season. It's not that bad. It's a lot more casual. I'd highly recommend doing it because this was way too many people.